Take me out to the ball game.
Get that stuff out of here. It's Southwest Bias.
Welcome into another edition of Southwest Bias, brought to you by our friends at Branded Bills. Use the promo code PHNX when you shop at Branded Bills and get 20% off your first order. And it is baseball opening weekend. And I got to tell you, I love it more than any other sporting event when a season opens for baseball, because I think as I'm getting older, it reminds me of when I was young, right? And that summer meant possibilities. Anything could happen. You got vacation, which you usually didn't get to take. You took a trip in my family, and there was places you'd see that you hadn't seen before. Or once you got older, it was hanging out with your friends and going places and seeing movies and, you know, the occasional party. And you just felt like summer was the time where you could have the most fun that you were going to have in an entire year. And baseball season kind of marked the start of that for me. Now, I got into it late in the game because the Diamondbacks didn't come until my freshman year in high school. And I used to watch baseball from afar. You know, we had TBS and, WGN. So I watched the Braves and the Cubs. My dad was a Yankees fan. But really, it was that freshman year of high school and that first opening day for the Diamondbacks that it really captured my imagination. And there's nothing like hearing "The Streets Have No Name" and the roof opening at Chase and seeing that introduction video for the first time in a year and remembering anything is possible. Now, baseball also reminds you just how much of a slog life can be, too. 162 nights out of the year, it's a lot. But that first weekend and then that month of September is something special. And that's why I'm so excited for this Diamondbacks Cubs series this weekend and the fact that baseball is back. Shane, the mustache behind the Mac, do you feel that way about baseball too? Is that something for you that when opening weekend comes, it just sparks something in you?
Yeah, baseball, the MLB doesn't do a lot of things right when it comes to marketing, but opening day is the thing that they definitely do right. Because, you know, week one of the NFL speaks for itself. It's football. Everyone wants it back. The NHL has opening face-off stuff, and it's fine, but there just isn't anything like MLB opening day. And I think it has a lot to do with what the actual product is when you're going to the games. It's just such a great thing to do. You don't have to be a fan of sports. You don't have to be a fan of baseball. It's just a great experience. It has to do with the fact that most of the ballparks are outdoors and yeah, it's just the vibes, the summer vibes. It's great.
I think they screwed up a little bit this year, though. Opening day being on the same day as Sweet 16, tipping off. I feel like they missed the mark. You couldn't have opened up Monday or Tuesday. I mean, hell, technically you opened the season 2 weeks ago, a world away. So why wait until the same day as the tournament and the second weekend tipping off? To me, I feel like that was a miss where baseball could have owned the first, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of this week. Hell, done a whole series, for each team before the basketball tournament started.
Yeah, I think that Wednesday makes the most sense. It's hard because of the spring training schedules, and I think that's why they were playing spring training games up until Monday this week.
Yeah, but why not move spring training back 3 days, right? I mean, it's not that tough to do the math and figure out how you could get to a place where you're not starting the season on that. I mean, because in Arizona in particular, you got a lot of Wildcats fans that, had the Diamondbacks game start at the same time. Like, it's just a weird thing to have happening. But you know what? Overall, though, this is probably the best, like you said, opening for any sport in terms of just the games, the excitement in those opening series. Well, you know what? There's another big baseball story that happened this week in Arizona, and it was Jordan Montgomery having to undergo Tommy John surgery and having his season end. And really his Diamondbacks career, I'd imagine, end, because this was the second of a 2-year deal. He had exercised that player option, and everybody knows how bad the Jordan Montgomery contract is, right? And we've talked about it to death on PHNX Diamondbacks. Everywhere has talked about it. But it got me thinking, what is the worst sports contract in Arizona history? And we got a couple of them right now. Jordan Montgomery, one of them, Bradley Beal, the other one. But I wanted to rank the worst contracts in AZ history, and in addition of Espo's big board. And it's the top 5 worst contracts in Arizona sports history. And you can see it there on the screen. But I'm going to start with number 5, Sam Bradford, the quarterback for the Cardinals. Now, some might argue, and I think Johnny and Bo on PHNX Cardinals might argue, that he should be closer to the top here. But I struggle with it. It was a 1-year deal, technically, if there was an option. But 1 year, $15 million was what he was guaranteed. It's what he got. He lasted a total of 3 games, went 0-3, had 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a 62.5 quarterback rating. This was terrible, right? This was the year that they drafted Kyler Murray. They needed a stand-in guy, a veteran, to try to carry it over, and they thought they were making a savvy move. A former number 1 pick, a guy that some thought maybe had a little bit more left in the tank after his St. Louis days. He did not. He had nothing left in the tank when he got here. So it was basically light $15 million on fire, and then let's move on to the new guy. I mean, Shane, you watched Sam Bradford. I mean, he was pretty atrocious here in Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that has to do a lot with the expectation and bringing him in. Like the 1 year, $15 million contract, like it's not a gaudy number, especially in the NFL. And even 10 years ago, It still wasn't crazy. But it was Sam Bradford. It was the name, So I think that had a lot to do with it.
Well, I think production's a big part of this, right? It's not just the number, because then we just rank it in terms of money spent. And I think that would be a different list, obviously. But some of this has a lot to do with the context when it comes to it. The next guy, and this is going to piss some people off, I have Bradley Beal at number 4. He's only the 4th worst contract in my mind in Arizona history. The Suns portion of it, obviously the Wizards gave it to him as a 5-year deal originally, but what the Suns are on the hook for is $150.7 million. And you look at it, and this is as of right now when we tape this, he had 101 games played so far as a Sun. He's averaging 17.8 points, 4.3 assists, 3.9 rebounds, and he's shooting 51% from the field. And look, I get it. The no trade clause makes this a lot worse in terms of the way people look at this. But Bradley Beal's production has not been that far off from his career. He's played particularly well. His injuries have been bad. And the fact that his skill set overlaps significantly with Devin Booker's isn't his fault, right? To me, that's the group that put the team together. And so to hold that against Bradley Beal is a little weird for me, right? And his contract is bad because you want to deal him as a fan base or as a franchise, and you can't because of a no trade clause, but you acquired that deal. You didn't sign this deal. You acquired the deal knowing that there was a no trade clause attached to it. And to me, that doesn't make it a horrible deal in terms of the contract. It makes it a bad business decision by the group that decided to acquire him. But overall, I don't think it's the worst in terms of even Suns contracts that happened. I think worst for the Suns contract is 3 on our list, Tom Gugliotta. He signed because Antonio McDyess decided to go back to Denver. And he was expected to be the guy to fill that void. And you look at it and you go, 6 years, $60 million, that's not that much. Well, honestly, if you look at it in today's money, it's $115 million. And when you look at it, it was one of the bigger contracts in the NBA, a large portion of their salary cap at that time. And this guy was supposed to be one of the main stars on the team. He played 255 games, had some serious injuries and health issues, only averaged 6.1 points a game, 3.9 assists, 5.6 rebounds, shot sub 45%. He shot 44.8%. If you're talking about dollars to production for me, games missed, all that, this is a worse contract than Bradley Beal's contract is for the Phoenix Suns. I would put him above Bradley Beal and as the third worst contract we've seen in Arizona sports history. I don't know if, Shane, you remember much about Tom Gugliotta. You were probably a little young, but this was one of those guys that people thought, oh, okay, you've got a significant name, a guy that was really close to the prime of his career, coming out of Minnesota where he was a star, and Washington where he was a star, came here and fell flat on his face for multiple reasons, health, injuries, all those things, but never produced and stayed that entire 6 years in Phoenix. That was a terrible contract for this team.
Good name, not a good contract.
No, and the second time we've referenced Tom Gugliotta on this program. Where else in Arizona sports right now in 2025 are you getting Tom Gugliotta references? I'm going to tell you, nowhere else. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. That's your decision. But that's what you get here at Southwest Bias with me, Espo. That's just the way it is. Number 2 on the list is Madison Bumgarner, and we remember this. The Diamondbacks like to spend on aging pitchers who have questionable injury issues coming up in their future. They spent 5 years, $85 million on Madison Bumgarner. He had a 15-32 record. He started 69 games for this team. He pitched 363 innings and a 5.23 ERA. And the amount of money that you were spending per game started and innings pitched was deceitful. It was awful. It was not great, Bob, as how you'd say it. Obviously, I think the most memorable moment of Madison Bumgarner's tenure, well, two. Mason Saunders was his fake rodeo name. That I'll never forget that. And then the umpire continually checking his hand for foreign substances, and then them longingly looking each other's eyes. That's what you remember from Madison Bumgarner's career in Arizona. It was very little to do with his pitching. And then number 1 is the aforementioned Jordan Montgomery, who it's the old if you beat him, join him. I know that's not the saying, but that's what happened here. He was part of the Texas Rangers World Championship team. Didn't get signed until spring training last year with the Diamondbacks. He signed that 2-year, $47.5 million contract. It was a player option for the second year, and he was so bad last year that obviously he decided to opt into this year. And Tommy John surgery keeping him out for the entirety of this season, as we mentioned. He finishes 8-7 in his Diamondback career in 21 starts, 117 innings pitched, and a 6.23 ERA. That will definitely go down as the worst contract in Arizona sports, at least currently. And let's just call it like it is. I think Ken Kendrick has a little bit of a kink for bad contracts for starting pitchers who kind of fall off a cliff there, metaphorically speaking. Shane, how bad did I do on this list?
I think it's fine. I think there are.
I'm going to get killed for the Bradley Beal one. I know that's going to happen.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Bumgarner and Montgomery, you could argue that Madison hurt them more,
yeah,
but
Montgomery's contract is pretty, it's bad, but it's also pretty, recent. So I think people are going to be fine with that.
In retrospective, you think it's more of a recency bias that he's won just because it's so fresh?
I'd have to do my own digging, but I don't think so. I think objectively it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
He basically provided no value and negative value even. So
especially when some people were like, well, he's a 1 or number 2 starter in this league and could be that for them and delivered nothing. Again, I still think in terms of how bad he hurt his team, Madison Bumgarner in those 5 years probably did more damage, but I think the contract of Jordan Montgomery was the worst there. So that's another edition of Espo's Big Board, the top 5 worst contracts in AZ sports history. I want to wrap up today's show with something I'm going to call a little web slinging. It's things I found from around the web. And the first one, we're going to stay in baseball for this one. A lot of baseball talk today, but the San Francisco Giants released their City Connect uniform. Technically, it leaked. They didn't really release them. But what we're seeing is essentially a Phoenix Suns baseball uniform, which is ironic because the Phoenix Giants used to be the AAA team for the San Francisco Giants. But we got a black, purple, and orange uniform, and I really don't get it. It very much looks like a Suns fan tried to come up with what a baseball jersey should look like. Like, I assume if I went to AI and I said, give me a Phoenix Suns, San Francisco Giants mashup, this is what I'd get. The City Connects, I like the concept, but I feel like Nike is trying too hard in baseball. Baseball is a subtle sport. You know, the looks, the feels, that's when it comes to uniforms, it should be more that. And these City Connects have gone kind of wild, kind of rogue, and very few of them have hit, right? Very few of them have really looked the part, felt like the city. And maybe I'm just not a San Franciscoan, so I don't get it. But to me, I think this one missed the mark. The only one I've seen so far, this second round of them that I like, is those Astros ones. And of course, we still haven't seen the Diamondbacks ones, but I'm hearing they're going to be purple. But don't tell anybody I told you that, because I might get in trouble. Another thing on the internet that has been making the rounds, Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James. It's the battle nobody asked for and the one that we're all being force-fed right now. Obviously, Stephen A. Smith has shot off his mouth about Bronny James. LeBron James confronts him, and I know it's not Arizona sports technically, but I got to weigh in on it. I think it is one of the more ridiculous rivalries, and I know last week on the program I sarcastically praised the Dan Bickley, Kevin Durant rivalry as one of my favorite in sports, sarcastically, and it's a little more playful. This one has turned bitter, including Stephen A. Smith saying he'd throw hands.
Because had that man put his hands on me, I would have immediately swung on him.
He would have swung? Are we serious? You would have swung on LeBron James. Now, to his credit, he did say he'd get his ass kicked if he did that. But I turned to the largest department here at PHNX, our AI simulation group, to come up with what an actual Stephen A. Smith, LeBron James fight would look like. And this is what they came up with.
The price is wrong, bitch.
If only it were real. But you know what? If that ever, it drives me nuts that Stephen A. has turned himself into the story. It shouldn't be surprising to me either. But you know what? I heard that we live in basically an attention economy. And this is the way that people get their shows off the ground. And we're just starting this Southwest bias thing, and who knows what it'll evolve into, but we need all the attention that we can get. So I've decided I'm personally going to start a athlete media rivalry right now. Jock Landell, you're a dickhead. Yeah, I said it. I don't like Australia. I don't care that my daughter's obsessed with koalas. I don't like the place. And you know what? I don't like you anymore. You think it'll work, Shane? I think I need some heat. I want to beef here. I don't think so. I don't either. And I know that Jock could kick my ass both verbally and physically. But you know what? I figured if it was good enough for Stephen A., why shouldn't I try it?
I think it'd be good enough for. Or I think he'd kick your ass on Twitter too.
Oh, he'd kick my ass anywhere. I mean, that's Jock's done it here before on set. He's taken me to task. There's no doubt about it that Jock Landell would win that beef in any way, shape, or form. Jock, I'm just kidding. If you want to come in here and fight me, though, we can turn on the cameras and at least make some content out of it. And then the last thing I saw, and I was super excited about this, Shane, and you're probably far too young to be excited like I am, but Acclaim, the video game maker, is coming back, and they want to focus on reviving classic franchises. And this is the company that did Blitz, did NBA Jam, like some of the greatest Slugfest, some of the greatest arcade games when it came to sports went through Acclaim. Slugfest, underrated. I am so excited, and I really hope that they focus on some of those sports titles. Is that something that gets your motor running, Shane?
Oh my God, yeah, I used to play Slugfest 2003 all the time. That was like one of my great. That was like one of my best, like, favorite games ever.
Getting so mad and charging the mound, the bombs that you could hit. That is one of my top baseball games for sure. And I hope it's on the list of what they're going to revive. I've wanted a new NBA Jam. Like, it's great to have these retrocades, and we got one of them here in the office, but I want a brand new NBA Jam. I want a brand new Slugfest. Like, bring these games and the joy of arcade sports to the current generation and these next gen systems. Acclaim, save us from the mundane. I don't want NBA 2K anymore. I don't want Madden. I want something that I can enjoy, have some fun, score 20 runs and hit a home run that was 600 feet while it's on fire. Give me what I need, Shane. I cannot wait till they start rolling these out.
Did you ever play the NBA Jam in 2010 that came out?
I did.
It's a pretty good one.
The mobile version, they had it on Wii, a couple other things. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I played it on Xbox. It was good.
Yeah, it was a good. It was basically just updating the graphics, which is perfectly fine. I think that's basically all you need. New rosters, new graphics, you're good to go. It's a simple premise, but none of them that have kind of copied it have ever captured quite the dynamic of just the classic 2-on-2 NBA Jam. So Claim, I'm very happy to have you back.
All right. Well, in honor of that, I thought we could do a blind ranking of sports video games, and we'll take it by franchise. So I'm not going to give.
We're doing 5.
We're doing 5. I'm not going to give it a specific year.
That's fine.
Just by franchises, and we'll start off with one of my personal favorites. Probably the game that I sunk the most time into from ages 5 through 15.
Okay,
and that's the Backyard Sports Series.
Ooh, which is actually back now and coming to mobile at the end of the month. I'm going to put this at a 3.
Okay.
It can't be up at the top, but I don't think it's fair to put it at 5 because there's a lot of trash you could throw my way. I'm going to give it a solid 3.
This is probably my favorite sports franchise of all time.
Okay.
It's the Street franchise, NBA Street and NFL Street.
I didn't get into it, and it might be an age thing. I can see why it was intriguing. It has a little of the NBA Jam flair to it, a little of the NFL Blitz flair to it, but I'm going to put it at 4. I'm gonna put it at 4. I think you're probably going to give me something worse. Like you're going to give me like Lee Trevino's Golf or something that I'm going to have to put at 5, but I'm going to put it at 4 for now.
Okay. Now comes all of the Acclaim games.
Okay. All of them. 1.
Wow.
1. It started, I know that everybody has a real soft spot in their heart, and I know this is going to be on your list, probably Madden. But before Madden became the phenomenon that it is, before NBA 2K became an industry of its own, these Acclaim games were what kind of started this in the home entertainment and in the arcade. Like, people forget, and yeah, I'm old man yelling at clouds now, but there was a time where you had to go physically to a place to play video games. And the NBA Jam arcade, when it came out in 92, made $1 billion in quarters. You know how many quarters that is? You know how much weight that is? And that was not like over a long period of time. That was like, I think it was in the first month. It made $1 billion in quarters. These Acclaim games were a phenomenon. And I remember waiting in line to buy NBA Jam and NBA Jam Tournament Edition when it came out for the Sega Genesis. These things were a cultural phenomenon. I'm going to Acclaim 1.
Okay.
I'm going to regret this, aren't I?
Did you ever play? Okay, we'll do a disclaimer.
Okay.
Have you ever played any of the Mario sports games?
Yes.
Okay, that's the next one.
So I have 2 and I have 5 left. For the sports purists in me, I'm going to have to put them at 5.
Wow.
I'm going to have to put them at 5,
Wow.
which I can't wait for Lee Trevino Golf to be number 2 on my list now.
The last one, I was going to be mean and do the NFL head coach series. Have you?
Yeah, you got the headset with it.
Those
and
games were
stuff?
so
Oh.
great. But I'm just going to go Madden as a whole.
So, I mean, obviously it's 2, and I think I actually would rank it there. I think it's Acclaim, and then it's Madden. Now, has every year lived up to the hype? Has every year been, worthy of being the second best franchise in sports video game history? No. But when you've done as many as they have, you're going to miss. Like, it's going to happen. You're going to have flaws. There's going to be all sorts of issues. So I think it's very worthy of 2. Some people would argue 1. I'd tell you you're an idiot if you did, because those Acclaim games were that good. But Shane, do you think it's 1?
No.
Okay.
Definitely not.
Okay, so did I do all right? Like, I think you were
so.
offended by the Mario score.
I would have flip-flopped Madden and Mario.
Really?
Yeah.
You would Madden would have been all the way down at 5.
Well, if I was doing it, I would go Street franchises 1.
Really?
Yeah, they're the greatest.
Really?
They're the greatest.
I got to go back and play some of these.
You got it. And then I would probably go it's tough. I would probably go Acclaim 2, maybe Mario 2. Mario was just like I put so many hours in those games.
I think it's fair, and I understand.
Like, Mario Golf is the greatest golf game of all time. I don't care how realistic these things get. Oh my goodness!
But we're talking. I struggle. All right, I struggle with golf being considered a sports game in and of itself. But I understand where you're coming from. I actually preferred the Mario Tennis.
Mario Tennis is elite.
Yeah, and I enjoy those, and I love those, and even I know it doesn't fall in the Mario, but even Wii Sports on a Nintendo side of things is good, but I could not place it at 2. I respect your opinion. You've probably put more hours and sweat into the consoles than I have, but I just can't put it there.
That's fair.
All right. Well, that is another edition of Southwest Bias in the books. He is Shane Diefenbach. Follow him at Shane Dief on social. You can follow everything from the show at PHNX_sports, and you can follow me at Espo, and we'll talk to you next week on Southwest Bias. Ahoy, hoy.
We all silly like the mayor.